Hi, I'm Shan Wu with this question. What is the national security risk posed by frog carcasses? Or, another question, is the DHS, DOJ, and ICE now wanting immigrants here lawfully to play Frogger? You remember Frogger, the game where the frog has to safely get across the busy road, except instead of speeding cars, we have DHS, DOJ, and ICE speeding at them, trying to get them. What's this all about? It is about the latest debacle where ICE is detaining a person who is lawfully here on some kind of bogus national security charges. Now, we're going to cover this like we cover other things, and we want you to join us in this journey by subscribing. Make us the biggest and best legal analysis, political news channel that we can possibly be. And we can only do that if you support us and engage with us, letting us know what you want to see more of, less of, what you're interested in doing. So subscribe. All right, back to Frogger. Here is something from the DHS government news. And their headline is, "They are spending their days fighting fake news." So I'm going to give you two examples of their fake news comebacks. They talk about the Brown University assistant professor in all quotes, and says that this professor, a doctor, not a medical doctor, but a PhD, was an assistant professor, and she was in the US with a H-1B visa. She was deported back to Lebanon after she committed the terrible crime of admitting to attending the funeral of a terrorist, who they described as a brutal terrorist who led Hezbollah, responsible for killing hundreds of Americans. They go on to say the media tried to portray her as an example of a lawful immigrant being deported, but they completely ignored her direct and alarming ties to radical Islamic terrorism, including her veneration of a dead terrorist leader. All right, now, I have news for DHS. While you can certainly go after people who actually have ties to terrorist groups, whether they are here on a lawful visa or not, it's a real open factual question, I'd say, as well as a legal question, whether the mere fact that you have sympathies for such a bad person, attend their funeral, means that you are supporting or have ties to terrorists. That's a really huge factual legal question. And the way that they address it here is incredibly simplistic. But it gets worse. Next, we have Dr. Petrova. Quote, they call her, quote, the Russian scientist trying to cure cancer. Dr. Petrova, they say, is a Russian researcher working for Harvard University, lawfully detained after lying to federal officers about carrying substances into the country. Substances, frog carcasses. A subsequent canine inspection uncovered undeclared petri dishes, containers of unknown substances, and loose vials of embryonic frog cells, all without proper permits. Messages, even worse, messages on her phone revealed she planned to smuggle these items through customs without declaring them. She knowingly broke the law, took deliberate steps to evade it, but upon her detainment, the media rushed to defend her by claiming that her research could help to cure cancer. DHS says, the facts of the matter are simple. Petrova broke the law and actively planned to do so. Her research does not make her exempt from the laws of our country. Now, let's compare what DHS is saying to what the news actually said about her detention. New York Times. For nearly 8 weeks, Petrova has been captive to a hardline immigration policies of the Trump administration. She was recruited to work at a laboratory at Harvard Medical School. She was part of a team investigating how cells can rejuvenate themselves with the goal of fending off the damage of aging. So she's doing aging research, all right? Now, how stupid are the people putting out these press releases when they want to rely on this kind of juvenile, superficial notion of cure cancer? Oh yeah, if you want to make fun of somebody, say they're working on a cure for cancer, because that's just a generic term, versus what she's actually working on. All right, so what happened for this Dr. Petrova? Back on February 16th, customs officials detained her at Logan International Airport in Boston for failing to declare samples of frog embryos she had carried from France at the request of her boss at Harvard. Now, actually, there was a canine alert, apparently. I suppose these are drug-sniffing dogs, unless we now, are in the habit of training frog-sniffing dogs. And so she was questioned about what it was. Apparently she admitted to having this and not declaring it as biological materials. And typically, that's a customs violation, punishable with a fine of up to $500. Instead, on the spot, the customs official canceled her legal visa and began deportation proceedings, asking her, hey, send you back to Russia, is that okay? She said, no, it's not okay. She had fled Russia because she was afraid for her life there because she sympathized with dissidents fighting for freedom against an oppressive regime. In her late teens, the newspapers report, she supported opposition-minded Russians who took to the streets to oppose Putin's presidency, and she began joining them. She made no secret of her views. In their job interviews, one job interview she had the promise she wouldn't post criticisms of Putin on social media. She refused. Quote from her, I think in each country scientists are opposed to autocratic government. So on February 24th, 2022, when Putin sent columns of Russian tanks across the border into Ukraine, she also joined protesters there. She got arrested, charged, fined about $200 and released. That's why she left Russia. People like her were living in that very authoritarian regime, took a stand, feared for their lives, and because of it, they came to this country to work. This country that they understood to be one of freedom, where you can express your views, not be worried about being snatched up, but instead found this kind of treatment under the Trump regime. Now, Ms. Petrova does not even blame her boss for this. Actually, according to reporters who spoke to her in detention, she hasn't complained much about life in detention. She wishes she had access to a laptop so she could continue to analyze data from her laboratory at Harvard. Quote, it would be good enough, she said. She did worry, this was a couple of months ago, that when this is all over, she will no longer be able to work at the same level because she says even if she's released, quote, I will feel myself much less safe. Of course, will affect my efficiency. I will be very afraid. What if I get rearrested? Think about what a positive attitude and how focused she is on just wanting to get back to her work. Yet this is a person that the Trump DOJ and DHS has the nerve to declare a national security risk, that she's smuggling in dangerous things, perhaps. Now, there was a hearing, and Anna Bauer did a great job of reporting it live. We'll put up the thread that she was doing. And it's certainly worth your while to take a look at how that was all playing out, the questions and answers by DOJ lawyers, by Petrova's lawyers. But let me cut right to the most critical point. A customs violation is not a cause for being inadmissible to the country. And the judge asked about that. Petrova's counsel, her lawyer, talked about that, saying there's no allegation that misrepresentation of carrying in materials is grounds for denying the person entry. And he says, even if we assume that she lied to customs, which she denies that she lied, it's not a misrepresentation in order to gain an immigration benefit. That's why it's inapplicable. And also, DOJ didn't previously allege that. As usual, her lawyer makes this point. DOJ can't make up his mind what arguments they've made. They've made like 3 different arguments, for what they're trying to do to remove her. So that's an important aspect of the immigration law, which is, you can't make misrepresentations about your visa, about your status, in order to gain the benefit. Meaning you can't lie about something in order to get the visa, in order to be admitted into the U.S. For example, Elon Musk, who came on a student visa, had no intention of being a student and just began to work when he was here. That would be, in common sense, a misrepresentation made to gain an immigration benefit, meaning he got to be here legally. That's not what she's doing. This is just a violation of bringing in something that perhaps allegedly wasn't declared. That's not for an immigration benefit. That's just, if you're smuggling in candy, olives, whatever it is, that doesn't help your immigration status. That's the point. So, Petrova's counsel, as I mentioned, said that DOJ has changed its version of what happened at least 3 times, but one thing has remained constant, that Petrova, was found inadmissible to the United States because of undeclared frog embryos. And again, under the statutes, under the law, that's not a basis for the inadmissibility. The judge repeatedly quizzed the government lawyers about their grounds for canceling the visa. She asked, where is that authority? Where does a Customs and Border patrol officer have the authority on his or own to revoke a visa? It's got to be somewhere, because there's no way that person has that kind of unlimited determination. At one point, the DOJ lawyer said that that authority had been delegated to them. And again, it's amazing what these DOJ attorneys are saying. Think about what that means. All that's delegated, every single customs agent, they can just revoke people's visas right and left. And of course, they don't even want there to be review of those decisions. I mean, what a ridiculous notion that they can do that. It's one thing if you give police officers a subjective standard probable cause they can make an arrest. Then there's a determination. The person doesn't go straight to jail with a conviction, which is what they're saying these people can do, which is based on what they think, we're revoking your legal status now. Makes no sense whatsoever. The judge was rightfully skeptical, set another date for a bail hearing. Guess what DOJ did that afternoon? U.S. charges Russian scientists with smuggling. So a DOJ lawyer says that they intend to deport her to Russia, of course. And her attorney said that this criminal charge, filed 3 months after the alleged customs violation, is clearly intended just to make her look like a criminal to justify their efforts to deport her. You know, it's kind of puzzling. I mean, why do we think that ICE, DHS, DOJ, the Trump regime wants to make an example out of a scientist who's working on aging research using frog embryos, frog biological samples? I don't know. Does that have anything to do with her taking the sides of Russians who want greater freedom so that Trump can deliver a dissident back to Putin? Because we know Putin's very obsessed with people who are dissidents. Does it have anything to do with Harvard, where she works, standing up to Trump? Because we know that they decided to fight back against him. These are questions we should be asking. Lots of people, including our political representatives. You know, my parents came here as political refugees. Some of you know that. And a lot of us who remember a different time in America or have parents, relatives who were very idealistic about America, it's a very common question. People say, you know, would these folks even recognize this as America? That's the wrong question. Because I can tell you, people who faced that kind of oppression in other countries and came here for freedom, they don't have any trouble recognizing what's going on here. They recognize it all too well. All right, that's it for now. Good to talk to you. Keep those replies and comments coming. I really enjoy hearing from you, and we will talk to you soon.
I'm Michael Popak, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popak Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popak Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popak Firm today at 1-877-POPAK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopakfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popak Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.